Hello, everybody. Welcome to Critical Commentary. I'm Taylor,
And I'm Trevor.
and we are going to be discussing something very wonderful, if you get my drift.
Oh, not the puns.
Yes, the puns. If this is going to be a campy movie, we need to be campy.
Making fair points there. Yeah. Definitely fits the criteria.
It definitely does. So, yeah, make sure to like, subscribe, comment down below, and enjoy our take on Wonder Woman 1984.
All right, so let's talk a general overview of Wonder Woman. Taylor, what are your thoughts on the movie?
As a comic book fan, um, there were things I liked about it. It's hard to say that the movie was overall without its flaws, but at the same time, there were like cool stuff that happened, right?
Yeah, there were some admittedly great scenes from
Mm-hmm.
a cinematography, from a plot perspective.
Yeah, yeah. There's I do have to say, this was a huge tonal shift from the first one. The first movie was very dark, very desaturated, very serious. We were definitely seeing Diana as a warrior princess, and this was not that. This was a little bit more how would you
Bright,
describe it?
comedic slightly, it's 80s. They really
Yes.
went for
They
it.
leaned into that. They leaned into the era with all their over the top and like extravagantness. But I mean, again, there are still some problems with the movie, I have to say.
Right.
Yeah,
Most of
so
which most of which relating to them to their direction with plot and the devices they
yeah.
choose to use here.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of tropes, a lot of stereotypical '80s sitcom superhero esque
Yeah,
cliches.
definitely. Definitely. So, at the time of recording, the cinema score has it's dropped significantly. I believe it was at somewhere in the 80s earlier, because they did say, before the movie came out, it was certified fresh. um Now it's rocking at a 67, which is not fresh indeed. It sounds a
Yeah,
little bit 3 days old.
it's pretty low. Not what I'd
Pretty low.
initially expect, but or well, yeah, no, my expectations fell pretty much around there.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a fitting score, to be honest with you. I wish it had been higher, and I know that with all the movie wars between Warner Brothers and DC versus Marvel, this was really, I think, this really were there was a lot of stuff on their shoulders, is what I'm trying to say, about making continuity, making a sequel of their one of their main part of the Justice League Trinity. And it's a little interesting how, I don't want to say this failed, but at the same time, Marvel has done so well creating a monolith of their world, and I'm worried that this might set DC back.
I mean, you're absolutely right. DC has been playing catch up for a while now.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think that's making this a lot more difficult to kind of. I personally am more of a DC person, but I love Marvel. I love going to see the movies. I saw Black Panther within like the first 4 or 5 days of it opening. I remember literally cramming myself between a bunch of middle schoolers to watch Captain Marvel, but at the same time, I really wanted this to be that success for them. I wanted them to be able to say DC's got some stuff in the bag. And they do, but only in their TV shows. And I think that they
Yeah.
really needed this, like this win as a blockbuster movie, especially the only superhero movie that has come out in 2020.
Yeah, they you would not be wrong in saying that they bear the weight of a lot of the film industry right now,
Oh, yeah.
and a lot of
Oh, yeah.
angry producers, actors,
Oh,
executives.
yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we've been talking about the HBO mess. I don't know what else to call it. It's a mess. Um,
Yeah.
what do you think this is going to do to that? What do you think? I mean, we don't know about its performance as far as HBO, but I'm assuming most people watched it there. I'm assuming people did not go to theaters to see this movie. So, what do you
Right.
think is going to affect their decision making with all the releases that they were planning on, going straight to streaming?
Yeah, this does not. I mean, I know the initial predictions were that this would be the death of theaters, but this is kind of an interesting setback. You
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't help to put everything on a movie that wasn't up to par. It's
Yeah.
it's definitely discouraging for any film production company to want to embrace this anymore, and especially with all the backlash now, it's probably getting even harder to push for.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that everybody, or at least the main characters, they all got jobs like right before this movie released. Because now Patty Jenkins is going to be doing that. What is it? It's a new Rogue show with Disney Plus. It's a Star Wars show for Disney Plus. Rogue
Yeah.
Squadron. That's it. Um, and then she's also going to be doing a Cleopatra movie with Gal Gadot. So, oh, and Chris Pine is going to be doing Dungeons and Dragons, which you and I hold very dearly to our hearts. Lord knows what's going to happen to that movie, but
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that they kind of jumped ship at the right time before all this backlash. But now I wonder if those projects are kind of under a little bit of scrutiny now, because now they're going, ooh, do we really want you coming off of such a misstep?
Yeah. I mean, it puts more PR focus on them and a lot more negative or critics at the ready for them.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start going into specifics now. Let's kind of figure out where Diana is from the first movie. So it seems like everybody that we knew from the first movie, understandably, is gone now. We see that in pictures, in her apartment, which, by the way, she's at the Watergate West apartment, which is really cool because I went there for my birthday. Well, we went to the hotel, and I was pretty much looking into her apartment.
Oh,
So
nice.
that was just like a little bit of DC. Oh, ha, DC. A lot
Uh,
of DC humor there. But so she's by herself. Everyone's gone. What did you think about that? How did you perceive that from the first movie? She's so naive and so optimistic, and I feel like this was a lot different in regards to her character.
yeah, that whole montage, everything from the cinematography, the color space they use there, the
Mm-hmm.
music, it all just kind of indicated to me that she's almost stuck in this purgatory like state of just having to
Mm-hmm.
sit out, bide her time in hiding, help out where she can, but like really, truthfully, try and connect with no one for fear of having to go through this again, of just losing another person.
Yeah, this is a more walled off Diana, I think. You know, she lives for God knows how long. I mean, we know she's a demigod, she's the daughter of Zeus, but even the Amazons, we don't really know how long they live. So I can imagine that being kind of a lonely existence.
Right.
So, other than her being kind of what you were saying in this purgatory, Uh, how do you think that kind of translates into some of the lessons that she talks about? Like, that's a big, I mean, I feel like every movie or just everything that you hear from her so far, there's always a lesson, there's always something to gain. In Diana's case, like the intro monologue, how does that tie into maybe where she is?
So that last line where she says, "Can't see what you're learning until you come out on the other side," that really stands kind of poignant to the plot of the movie. She's
Mm-hmm.
stuck in this purgatory state where she's completely hung up on Steve. And of course, but it's been 40 odd years.
40 years?
Yeah, kind of a long time to be stuck there, but
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and kind of
I think,
through this she has to reconcile that she's basically just getting closure throughout the movie in order to be able to let
mhm.
him go.
I can save today, but you can save the world. Steve.
And
Yeah,
in
I
doing
think,
so finally understands more about herself and the
yeah.
needs of
Mm-hmm.
humanity.
Yeah. I think that one of the main lessons that Diana has to learn in this movie, especially, is how to be alone. And I feel like this really kind of reflects our last episode with the Queen's Gambit, where, Beth Harmon is more content by herself, whereas Diana feels like she needs to cling. And I feel like, as a, it's weird that they would paint her this way because I've always seen her as independent and strong. And so it's interesting that they decided to go in this route where it's like she feels emotionally cut off due to her loneliness. Um, and that she kind of wouldn't be where she's at if it wasn't for her friends. I just
Yeah.
wonder if I kind of agree with that because I feel like she's not always portrayed that way in the comics.
Oh, for sure. This was definitely, it felt like a new interpretation
Mhm.
of the
Mhm.
character, not so much drawing from her personality in the original comics.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, interesting that, Barbara Minerva comes along. And I mean, I feel like I could talk about this literally in its own episode alone about their relationship because it really did not sit well with me. I know Cheetah is one of um, Wonder Woman's biggest adversaries. If you see Cheetah, you always see Wonder Woman. And I felt like they didn't take a lot of time developing a relationship that we could invest in. They go on like one drink
Right.
and then they're kind of friends, but they never really seem to be friends. Like ones that we can actually go, yeah, I could see them sticking up for each other. I could see them maybe like having to gripe with the fact that they are grapple with the fact that they are now on opposite sides of the playing field.
Yeah, because I mean, well, for the entire movie, they really are just complete opposites
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah,
in every
and
way.
yeah, and it doesn't help that Barbara is very envious. It's not even hidden how envious she is. I mean, she's sweet about it, but there's never a sense of equality between the two women. It always appears as Wonder Woman is the Batman and Barbara is the Robin of that relationship.
Yeah, I mean, Diana's presence alone walking into a room where Barbara was as confident as can be is suddenly brought back right to where she started in the movie.
Yeah,
Just instantly levels her
exactly.
ego.
Oh yeah. And I think that is I don't know. It just seemed like they were frenemies, and I didn't believe the transition. I didn't believe that final fight between them because Diana's all like, "I love you. I want you to just renounce your wish," and I'm like, "This wasn't earned. This wasn't. This was just thrown at us." Which like doesn't make sense considering this was how long of a movie? Two.
2.5 hours?
Yeah,
Who asked
they
for
had two
this?
and a half
I
hours
I
and they couldn't
didn't.
give us a
I don't
little
know anybody
friendship.
who would.
No, exactly. I wonder where all that time went, you know? Where did that time go?
Apparently to very slow plot development.
Oh God, yeah.
Because it
So
simultaneously was the longest experience and felt like there was no
short.
substance there.
Yeah.
Like,
It felt I mean, we were talking about this earlier. The plot was so straightforward. Like there was no twists or turns. The only twist that I found was in that movie was the fact that the original Wonder Woman plays Asteria in the back, what is it? That like flashback. I had no
yeah.
idea that was who she was until the credit scene. I was like, "Oh, okay, that's new." Other than that, this movie was should have been easier to digest than I felt it ended up actually being. This was medicine and no sugar, you know?
Yeah. You gotta work for it.
Yeah. So we have Barbara. She's a gemologist, is I guess how they describe her. I'm trying to remember what her actual job was.
Cryptozoologist, something else.
I thought she was an archaeologist or an anthropologist, but I mean, I guess all of those things kind of still go into that.
And she describes it as she just spent a lot of time in college.
Yeah. Exactly. So she's this really quirky, stereotypical 80s nerd, you know? Very awkward, very invisible. And I guess that is supposed to be our exposition into what her motive would be when she finally gets her hands on the stone. But
Yeah.
did you find her to be a compelling character? Did you find her to be a good antagonist for Diana? I mean, I know we talked about their friendship not being really earned, but as a villain, did you feel like maybe that was earned a little bit more?
Yes and no.
Why
I
no?
say that no because I feel like there needs to be more plot development. There needs to be more character development than just, oh man, everybody hates me. I'm a nerd. Oh, I got a little bit of power. Time to go kill strangers. Um,
Yeah.
but at the same time, she has a convincing performance in the final fight. I mean, it's very tense, emotional, and just angrily trying to convey their own perspective.
So, I mean, to be honest, I felt like a lot of the problems with this movie really was not the acting. You know, I think that Pedro Pascal, as Bondy and Saturday cartoonsy as his character was, he really did give it his all. And I think Kristen Wiig also gave it her all, despite not really being given a lot. And
If
I
the
I
goal
liked their
was to play
dynamic.
off corny and 80s, then
Yeah.
beautiful job. Beautiful job.
Yeah.
Incredibly convincing.
Yeah. But I guess the part that I wish had been maybe a little bit different was just the fact that I felt like this was filled with too many villains.
Yeah.
I feel like it was really repetitive in the sense that there is the big boss and then this like mini prelude boss that has the same intentions as the
I
big
mean,
boss.
she basically becomes his lieutenant at that point. You know, his
Yeah.
right-hand woman.
Yeah, and I don't know. I
Just
felt like
in the
that was
name of
so
keeping her
old.
powers. Yeah.
Yeah, I just felt like that was old though. I felt it was so overdone in the first one, and so the second one I was hoping maybe if not to say that I can direct a movie, but I kind of would have rather maybe seen it just be Diana versus Maxwell and Minerva be more not even really Cheetah yet. I think that like maybe we should have gotten Cheetah as a little Easter egg at the end of the movie to tease us for the third, rather than her kind of go through this really hastened transformation. Because in the comics, she actually makes a deal with a god not a stone. It's not a wish. And so now that they have her kind of stripped of her powers,
Yeah.
but that's like the weird part. It's like, is she completely human now? Because she made the wish on the stone, not Maxwell. And so he renounced anything that anyone would have made to him. But does that mean that her stuff is still
Well, he
intact?
became the stone, so I would imagine that it would almost be magically grandfathered in, you know?
Well, so now we're just out of a
Because I mean,
cheetah. So how is that gonna come back? You know what I mean? Like now
unless they're
that
trying
just
to use
doesn't make
that as a
sense.
prequel setup to her finding a god to reach that
To
power
restore
again,
her
but
power.
I think that at this point they'd just either go in a different direction or just not continue the franchise.
I'm worried that that might be the latter might be what actually comes to fruition, to be honest with you. I think
Yeah, I don't see public response to this being any better than what we're talking, really.
yeah, I feel so bad. I feel like we're just trashing this movie and I want to like it. I
I
wanted
tried.
to
I gave it
love
as
it.
many chances as I could, but
Yeah, exactly.
there's a lot wrong here.
There's a lot wrong here. So let's talk about, I guess, before we go into what's wrong, what did we like about it? What did you like about it? What were things that you, despite all of the mess of this movie was, you kind of had to say, okay, well, that's cool. I like that.
Well, two in particular stick out to me.
Okay.
First was the jet scene where Steve and her make their escape with the stolen fighter jet from the Smithsonian.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the cinematography there, the kind of wonder in Steve's eyes as he finally gets to fly again, as they
Mm-hmm.
traverse through all these fireworks, and
Yeah,
Diana
that was
finally being
actually, I
able
think,
to control powers that she's been working on for 50 years now. You
yeah,
know,
I think that that was a very magical scene, especially when they're like over the clouds and you just see the lights flickering underneath them.
yeah,
Trevor was a really
beautiful
good
imagery.
character. Yeah, it was very beautiful imagery. Trevor was a very interesting character. Or Steve Trevor. I'm talking to you, and so I'm getting Trevor in my head.
Yeah,
Are you sure you haven't come back from the 40s? You're not reincarnated,
fairly certain. We'll see.
or you don't have a 80-something-year-old man living in your body? That was weird. That was weird. I didn't love that. It was very
Yeah,
down to earth, like Chris Rockish for me, but Steve, being in this new world,
It's all art. That just a trash can.
It's just a trash can. Yeah, yeah.
that was. I feel like they could have made fun of him a little bit more, and I kind of like that they didn't. I liked that, we
yeah,
take for granted those, advancements in technology, and he was just marveled by it, when he got on the escalator for the first time and he was like, oh, okay, I like this. Or the train that moved really quickly by him. Or just like the fashion, he was sitting there going, everyone's wearing parachute
yeah.
pants now? Like, is everyone parachuting? Is that a thing? It was
Just no
very,
concept of the limits of the future, really.
no,
Everything is
yeah.
already
But,
seems
but
like
I,
it's its wildest dreams.
yeah, but I liked that they made him have that awe. They could have made him seem, they could have played him for laughs. He could have been a totally less dignified character because he's like a fish out of water, which also is really
Yeah,
cute considering in the first movie Diana's the fish out of water and he's the one teaching her all these things. So it was cute that the roles were reversed, but I liked how they both gave them dignity in that not understanding, like they weren't used as comic relief because of their ignorance.
right. And the second scene I was gonna mention
Yeah,
was
second
the
scene.
her flying scene. Of course, it's definitely felt like true to comic, just ideal Wonder Woman moment.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like just
I've always been wondering why she wasn't flying. I started questioning myself. I was like, wait, does she not fly? Is she not a flyer? Does she just jump? I could have sworn she could fly. Um, so it was kind of cool to see how they used it, where it's like she's not really flying, she's gliding,
You know, and
and
she
she
can
uses the
somehow
lasso
lasso
as a way to like
lightning and
project her forward. Yeah,
planes and
yeah,
all
and
sorts of
lightning to
things.
project her forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing, or I guess not even something that we liked, but something that was to note was now apparently Wonder Woman can't get electrocuted.
Yeah, it is now canon for the DC universe that Wonder Woman is a ground type Pokemon. She is immune to electricity. Okay, guys? This is groundbreaking. You know, if any part of this movie needs to be remembered, it's that.
Considering how it only takes up what 2 minutes, a minute and a half of this 2.5 hour movie, I feel like we're just gonna keep saying that because it's like, the more I say it, the least I believe it.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I mean, I never was that ever really a controversy? Was that ever something that was like constantly being talked about? Because
Wait,
I
her.
just like her as like I mean I her powers are have always been kind of weird to me. Like I know she has super strength. She can fly, I guess now. Well, yeah. And then she's got, her armor that has like the shields and the blocking
Yeah.
ability. But I don't know much else about her powers.
As far as I had known, that about covered it.
So
As
this
far
is
as
just
what her
something they're
actual
just like
powers
throwing
were.
out there now.
Yeah.
I wonder, I don't understand why she can't conduct lightning though, because she's the daughter of Zeus. So, like, I mean, in Greek mythology, aren't some of the demigods or bastards of Zeus able to kind of harness lightning? Like, I don't know if that is ever
And then it
explored in
begs
the
the
comics.
question of, is it just that all of these gods, demigods, whatever, what have you, naturally have that ability, and Barbara, assuming that ability through a wish, did not grant her the same style of powers or something here?
Well, I mean, I know when they talk about the stone, they said the stone has monkey paw rules, and I know with like genie lamps, you do have to be specific. So
Right.
maybe because she didn't know who Diana was, she didn't know that she was an Amazon, she didn't know that she was a demigod. Maybe that's why she didn't really inherit that power, because like that would have been
Because I
something
guess
that
really she only asked for her strength, her looks, and her confidence.
yeah, she only asked for what she knew of Diana. And that's kind of going back to their relationship not making any sense, because I feel like her wish was so superficial. It was
I
like,
mean, it was
this is
made with
all you
little
know.
hope that it would work, but still.
I mean, yeah, but at the same time, if you've seen, I mean, there's that little scene where one of the scientists in the Smithsonian is like, I wish I had coffee, which, by the way, like, I don't know if that was necessarily I don't know if that was a bad wish, considering what the other people were wishing. But, I mean, she kind of saw, even if it was just coincidental, she saw some sort of evidence of its ability.
Yeah.
And even if she didn't, I would have still hoped, if that was like her, she was feeling really low. I would have thought that she would have been in a more vulnerable place where her wish would have been more sincere. And it was sincere. What she asked for was just really trite. And I don't know. I think it was just weird that she asked for things based off of a very, very, very superficial understanding of who Diana was. And I think that's why she doesn't get maybe her invulnerabilities like Diana has.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that goes back to the fact that there's just not a lot of character development here. I mean, she's
Yeah.
her whole personality is fairly shallow. There isn't like a lot to it.
And yeah, I think that's like definitely where Patty Jenkins, and I'm not sure if Patty Jenkins wrote the script. I'm yeah, I'm not sure if she wrote the script, but I just think that maybe if you're gonna spend that much time making this movie, I really would have hoped, especially because of how the first movie went, like there were side characters in Wonder Woman, and she still gave like the Scottish sniper. You know, we get into his PTSD, and he didn't have that much screen time, but we still got that. You know, uh,
Yeah.
the chemist who has the mask. We don't need to know that much of her to know just from the little bits of like her conversations, how she interacts with people, you got an understanding of who she was. So when Ares tried to get Diana to kill her, and like her mask comes off, you know, it wasn't just a symbolic mask that was slipping. It was, this woman is coming from a place of she's intelligent, but she's unable to reach her potential because of being a woman. And I don't feel like you got that with Barbara. Barbara could have easily had a very similar story, and I felt like they chose to just give her this like basic character arc. And I don't even really know if that was an
Realistically,
arc.
it's a
It was more
cop
like
out.
a curve. Yeah, exactly. It was a cop out. It was.
And in a time where so
So
many other movies are directly addressing these kind of things and bringing in more
yeah,
interesting stories.
yeah, and I think that because this is a woman directed film, I would have expected, not to say that just because she's a woman she has to hold the mantle and be this token female director who understands female characters, but at the same time I would have thought that she would have given a little bit more there. We get to see Maxwell Lord be humanized. We see flashbacks of his father abusing his mother, and he has like bed incontinence for it seems a good portion of his adolescence, which is a sign of abuse. And then we see him kind of get older and go through hardships, and so they were able to do that, but they weren't able to really show us maybe why Barbara was insecure, except for that one assault scene and then how
Yeah.
she responds to it later once she develops her powers. Okay, so before we go, I know we kind of had some qualms with this movie, but overall, just in regards to one, the fact that this is the only superhero we got this year, or superhero movie we got this year, cinematography, just the looks of it, how would you rate this on a scale of 1 to 10?
You know, even with everything else considered, I think I'm still going to have to agree with Rotten Tomatoes here and go with a 6 out of 10.
Yeah. I wanted to give it a 7. I like really, really wanted to find a reason to give it something higher.
But end of the day, it just did not earn it.
It didn't. It didn't. It really disappoints me how they just. I felt like this movie was so rushed. And then with the anticipation build up, they changed their release date like 7 times or something. I could be wrong with that number, but it was a lot. It was the same thing that they
Yeah.
did with the New Mutants, and then we got the New Mutants, and we were all like, uh, uh, you know.
Yeah.
I wish this could have been a better movie. I will still probably go ahead and if there's a third one, watch it. Third time's a charm. But I really do think that DC needs to really kind of get their head in the game in regards to teamwork in the writing room. I think that is
Yeah.
where we're seeing a lot of stuff fall. They're not getting bad directors. I think they aren't looking at the broader picture.
Right. They're not pursuing any kind of more
No.
complicated storylines here like you'd hope to
No,
see.
and I think I think that they can do that because Joker did so well, and Joker got a lot of Oscar nominations and wins, including Best Actor. But at the same time, that was a one-off, and that was a character analysis. That was not setting up a multiverse universe. And yeah, so the thing that I'm worried about with this movie, and I think subsequent DC movies later, is that because they've been doing a lot of one shots, one director takes over one movie and that's their movie, and not really focusing on that teamwork, that Marvel has kind of made themselves a juggernaut. Oh gosh, I make so many comic book jokes, but like what's making them
Every
such a
time.
big it's unintentional, but what makes Marvel such a juggernaut, and Kevin Feige specifically, is because he wants everything to be somewhat universal. And Joker did so well, but at the same time, Joker was that one movie. That's not the rest of the DC universe. And I am worried that because they are so focused on director made content and not really developing their world building, it's going to be hard for them to do multiverse stuff. We've already heard that Nubia, which is Diana's sister, is becoming more prolific in the comics, and they already have talked about having a Brazilian Wonder Woman who's going to be in a show as, I believe, Wonder Girl, and then she's going to become a full-fledged Wonder Woman eventually. You can't have those things. You can't have those projects in line when you do not have continuity. And this is going to be really, really difficult to see when they decide to do Flashpoint, because Marvel has already set up Spider-Man 3. They've already set up Doctor Strange's Multiverse of Madness. That's already even being put into the forefront with WandaVision, who's going to be splitting reality. And so I'm nervous that because they aren't working together, that we're going to be continuously seeing these really fragmented pieces of work. And I want them to be successful, not just in television, with Doom Patrol and Harley Quinn, the animated series, but in their feature films.
Yeah. There's so much there that just, you can't treat everything like a one-off. You can't just keep approaching everything from a different style, different take here, different cinematic universe practically half the time.
Exactly.
All right, guys. Thanks for checking out our discussion on Wonder Woman 1984. We'd love to hear what are your thoughts on this movie and all the rest of the DC universe. Leave us a comment, subscribe, like, ring that notification bell.
Yes, and let us know how you enjoyed or maybe didn't enjoy Wonder Woman 1984. Are there other comic book characters that you want to see go from the comics to the silver screen? Let us know down below.